terminal line of economy upon us. So, so much for banking. Banking goes away, and Ellen Hodgson Brown has been advocating banking, and then she comes around now, and why is her position morphing into mine? Because she's been proven wrong. Because who's fighting these battles? You know. Now, where do you stand? You got to follow along on all this. I mean, it matters. You know, what are you going to get? Otherwise, if I didn't defeat her, you know, you're going to get another bank. And it might have been this bank that she thought was Benjamin Franklin's bank, which is Mike Montagne's words coming out of Benjamin Franklin's mouth, you know. But it was inflationary, and I made it that way on purpose so that I could test the audience, okay? Okay, so the next thing is this CAFR thing, C-A-F-R, it's abbreviated. And these preposterous people, Walter Burian among them, Ellen Hodgson Brown is a supporter of this idea. At least I've read articles where she supports it, because she's all over the map. She said it might help. You know, it's like, forget about principles, because she can't author them originally. Let's talk about something else, and we'll just, you know, everything that might help, you know, is going to help us. Well, I'm sorry. Not happening. Well, this CAFR thing is that supposedly, according to Walter Burian, you know, there's all this money that federal government is engaged in private enterprise, and it's making all this profit, and we could, you know, dedicate that to paying down the debt. Well, I'm sorry. You know, first of all, that's just a tiny drop in the bucket, if it's not just a tiny a piece of mist in the air, you know, of what, you know, Ellen claims some math that supposedly justifies this, but I'm sorry, calling you out on it. Baloney, you know. Second of all, what is the government doing in private enterprise? And if it's actually fairly competing with us, you know, how could it possibly be making any more profit than any other compromised industrial entity, so that it could afford to survive against them, charging higher prices than they do, so that could be dedicated above sustaining the industry to taxation. And why would we want to do it that way? Because you buy this, you're going to support everybody's kids over there. You might not have any kids going to school. You know, is that how you want to pay for education then? No, you associate the thing that you're paying for with the people who are paying for it and consuming it, and you pay at the rate of consumption. Otherwise, everything's askew. So you never advocate anything like this. So I'm going down a list here. The gold standard was disproved, you know, in the beginning of my work. You know, because a circulation equal to the monetary reserves of gold, or restricted to that, cannot sustain more industry. And likewise, as industry might fall or above or below that mark at any time, the relationship, the proportion of circulation per represented wealth and need to service debt is just constantly skewed. So you don't have any integrity in the money, and the limitation is the very reason the gold standard has always necessarily been abandoned. We've had to go to a fractional reserve system. Don't complain about fractional reserve systems, because they're an inevitable consequence of interest. Charge interest and expect the gold standard to be, or a precious metal monetary standard to be abided by. And sorry, the only way you can make ends meet is by a fractional reserve system, and a never more compromised one at that. Another false idea is that money must be a product. Well, and the people who promote this want to make profits from having money. Well, if you allow that, then you cannot preserve the integrity of your tokenization. What's more, you don't have to disallow it under mathematically perfected economy by automatically maintaining, you know, the integrity. Money automatically cannot be a product. You can't make money on money, you know. The reasons for hoarding money are eliminated, and making false profits is unnecessary. So another thing we have to let go of, and I'm just going through a list of things that we have to dispel. Another thing that we have to let go of is the idea that government is going to save us. You know, in In last week's program, I explained how exhaustive material on MPE has been presented to every president since and including Gerald Ford, to many of the presidential candidates, to representatives, and even to many foreign governments, never to be met even by an attempt at refutation. What does that mean? You know what it means. Now, here's an example of what it means, and I'm just going to go through this quickly too. This, my brother sent it to me the other day. It's a WorldNet article, WorldNet Daily article by Drew Zahn. October 26, 2010 was when it was posted. Anyway, it says Washington, March 30th. Congressional Black Caucus member Representative Chaka Fada answers questions at a news conference during the CBC's Economic Security Task Force on TAF Access Summit. Let me go through this. 300 of whom attended CBC's conference are tired of being overlooked as the federal government hands out billions of dollars on stimulus funds. Okay, so we've got people, looking for handouts. We are not only here to play, they say, we are here to stay. Okay, so anyway, this representative, Chaka Fada, has a plan. This is the important part. Has a plan for eliminating the multi-trillion-dollar national debt. Evidently, this person doesn't even know what the debt is, but I'm going to read this because this is an example of your government, the prospects of government solving this, and the reason to understand this is that you have to recognize whether or not we're going to get some help here from these people, or we ourselves have to lay down the law. It's one or the other. So earlier this year, Fada introduced this bill, Debt-Free America Act. Oh, there we go again. Okay. Which would impose a massive new tax for a period of 7 years. Oh, we're going to pay off the national debt in 7 years. Good luck, people. Good luck. While the national debt is being paid off. Oh. Is that so? And once the debt is paid, the bill would eliminate the individual income tax. Oh, well, that's a goody. That's a good reason for us to pay the whole debt off, which, I'm sorry, there's so much stuff to uncover about this. What they've been saying the federal debt's about $10 trillion for quite a few years. And, it's way above that. That's not even close. Anyway, so imagine you could pay that off. People were saying a few years ago that we had a $1 trillion economy. How can we have a problem? Well, shit, federal taxes are that. Or federal expenditures are that, or more than that. And anyway, so they go on. We're going to pay this off in 7 years. Somehow. Where's the math? Okay. Specifically, they say, would levy a 1% tax on every transaction of any kind, that uses check, cash, or credit cards, with a path in place also taxing stock transfers, whether done at the bank, grocery store, nail salon, or even through the Federal Reserve. Okay. In other words, if a man deposits his paycheck in the bank, there would be a 1% tax levied on the transaction. It goes on and on. And though the bill's language currently excludes transactions involving stock, the exclusion can be waived if the Treasury Secretary recommends waiving it. Oh, in other words, we don't even know what we're doing. We're talking to the Treasury Secretary, and they'll decide whether or not to waive that whole part of it. That might make a difference. Our math will still hold, and this is so preposterous. So let's see, what does this amount to? I'm not even going to read the rest of it. It's just garbage. Let's see. On top of all this, taxes we already suffer, which pay interest upon interest upon interest, all converted by underpayment in purported principle. Sure, we can afford to pay the government another $4.4 trillion, as all this cites the debt to be. It's way above that, And what about all the private debt? And, as if we're not collapsing from private debt, It doesn't even attend to that. Not much less the fact of how is this debt created? Is it a debt to the banks? How could we resolve it? Would we resolve it under this transformation to mathematically perfected economy? Absolutely. And why? Sorry, folks, you've already paid it many times over. And now this person is asking you to pay it again. This is just plain stupid. Okay? And this goes on and on and on. I'm going to leave that point now. So this idea that government is going to help you, sorry, it's not happening. These people are inept, and they are corrupt, and they are not going to do it. So, I mean, this goes back, it's amazing, how far back all this goes. I mean, when President Wilson, who served 2 terms in office, passed the Federal Reserve Act immediately in his first term, when he ran for office again, I've got this picture of his, campaign truck, and as if he had done something for us instead of something against us, which he later apologizes for. His campaign truck has all these preposterous slogans. Who broke the money trust? He paved the golden highway for the money trust. The front of the truck says prosperity preparedness. It's just all lies. Prosperity preparedness. I mean, not even 15 years after that truck was driving down the street, we had the world's first Great Depression. That's how prepared for prosperity Wilson was. That's just ridiculous. So what's our problem? The problem is us. We are our own problem, because if we negotiated these, all this preposterous disinformation, pretended, solvers who, rise up at the 11th hour and get everything wrong, I quoted, Emerson to you, we're our worst enemies. We, the people, are our worst enemies, because if we woke up tomorrow having assimilated 3 programs, that even just the first of them, last week's program, we already know what to do, and we know how to do this. I told you, you listen carefully. But what's going to happen is the first person and each next person is going to deviate from that immediately. This guy, called me 2 days ago to tell me, that listening to the last week's program and those arguments, disqualified Austrian economics, forever. And now they found that, my work, and they were really glad that, I'd completed all this stuff, far further, but their thinking it exactly concurred with mine. That money couldn't be a debt. Sorry, pal. You're not even paying attention. That's not the truth. I crossed an article, and this article grabbed me. It's not an article. It's just a comment. It's a comment by a fella who went by the handle Native Son. It's a response to Johann Hari's Common Dreams article, Our Infantile Search for Heroic Leaders. This was a great response. In truth, since I was a young boy, I had these ideas that, the real problem in the world was the leaders. If we didn't have a president, and if we didn't have Congress, if we actually ruled ourselves, and if they were held accountable, if we did have them, how different things would be. And I've given serious thought to this all my life. But this post to this article by this fellow Native Son spoke to me as a brother of parallel thinking. It complains about some issues which are very complainable, but it's its substance that speaks so loudly to me, because this is about the kind of people that we have to become in such a way so that we do something that humanity has never accomplished before, and that is establish mathematics